Welcome everybody back to BVTV for the second sectional weekend preview brought to you by Greenline, our presenting partners for VBL4. The action continues this Friday and Saturday at CluBarham, where only 4 spots remain for finals weekend. Unlike last week's preview, I've opted for a guest with actual bowling ability. It's none other than BV's friend of the podcast, Matthew Flapper. Welcome, Tangles. Good to have you on.
Sammy, good to be here, mate. Thank you for the invite.
It should be good. We'll get stuck into it because there's plenty to unpack. Obviously, this weekend coming up and the weekend just gone. So, sectional weekend 1 review to start things off. We'll touch on Pool A dramatic finish. The top 3 sides separated by just 2 points. Tangles, I don't think many would have had Traralgon Lyrebirds on top of what was the section of death. You saw them up close and personal. How did they go about it?
Yeah, they were great. Obviously, class outfit, really, when you look at it. And we probably, to be fair, didn't delve into, like you said, that team as much as we could have prior to the event. But J-Boy Norris, we know he's a superstar, talented player. James Pearce can play any position, very versatile. And, they just formed a really solid combination. And kudos to them. They're in the finals.
Like you said, J-Boy Norris, huge in their team. 3 from 3 in the singles against Craig Mills, Thor Shannon, and Brad Pavey. 3 very good singles wins. They'll be joined by the Yeovil Footscray Dogs, who in round 3, the fours league against Deer Park, it could have gone either way. All square last end in the fours. You might have seen this a bit close up. We were trying to guess what was going on the stream. Brent Code leading, went jack in the ditch, all square last end, but the Dogs still found a way to come out on top.
Yeah, he first bowl he gutsed it, and I think Deer Park went into celebration mode straight away. But the bowls followed the jack, and it's obviously bounced in the ditch and sort of still created about a 2.5 feet gap to draw the shot. Nelson Ball gets on the mat and nails it, and believe it or not, that bowl then stayed there until the final end had been completed, which was incredible to see.
Yeah, especially with the form that we saw Cullen Litfin in over the weekend, not quite enough to get Deer Park through. So the VBL 1 and 3 winners are out and won't feature at finals weekend. Pool B, not quite as thrilling, but still with a late twist. So Bundoora, the only undefeated team over the weekend, they go through 3 from 3. Corey Wedlock, 3 out of 3 in the singles, unstoppable. The fours legs as well was one to keep an eye on. So Brad Marin and Matty Curter in the back end there, definitely one to keep an eye on. In round 3, the Extreme in second place, they had their fate in their own hands, but they ran into Bundy, which then opened things up. The Cobras were taking on Pulse in the other matchup. Cobras without a win going into the last round. We're looking for a maximum 27 points. That includes the 5 bonus points. They won the pairs and triples legs and looked a chance until the Dandenong Pulse came out in the singles and fours and turned it on. They won both legs for a combined 15 shots up. They win the round, and in doing so, jump the Extreme and sneak a final spot. Matty, they're one to look out for.
Yeah, they certainly are. And obviously Bundoora were the benchmark in Section B. And I think they, correct me if I'm wrong, they consolidated their spot in the finals pretty much in round 2. They got the bonus points. But yeah, come down to that last game, and what a thriller. But it just goes to show, while all disciplines are pretty important, if you can get a bit of form going in those singles, that's where you're going to get your margins. And, obviously top of the table in Section A was Traralgon. J-Boy Norris, 3 singles wins. Top of the table in Section B, Corey Wedlock, 3 singles wins. So it goes a long way. You've got to win those singles games. And if you can gain a margin in that, it's hard to peg back.
Yeah, the singles, we know from previous VBLs, the singles is one where you can gain an advantage in this competition. So the Traralgon Lyrebirds, Yeovil Footscray Dogs, Bundoora Bowling Club, Dandenong Pulse are through. Only 4 more tickets to Miami remain. Let's take a look at this weekend's team's chances. Sectional Weekend 2 preview. We'll kick things off with Pool C. It's the CluBarham Suns represented this year. Jared Hammond, Brodie Hucker, Harry Keeley, Jacob Nelson, Brad Orr and Josh Thornton. A lot of local flavour about this team. We also get to see their marquee player who was on debut in the VBL. It's Jacob Nelson. Singles, yes. Triples, however, is playing second in that leg. Matty, what can we expect to see from the Suns in VBL4?
Yeah, well, they're going to be competitive, obviously, on their own deck, so they're going to get a bit of support as well. Their marquee player, I think it's that's a good inclusion because he's going to be pretty keen to get a feel for Barham. I think he's there mid-September for, correct me if I'm wrong, World Cup, World Indoor, something like that. So he's going to get a feel for the greens and know what it's about. But obviously a talented player. It'll be interesting to see if he goes head to head with his brother, who features in another side in the singles. I think he will. And then the other four boys. I think, is Josh in this team as the team manager? Sammy, do you know?
Well, they've listed 6, Matty, so we can only assume so. Correct. They've got 5 other far more quality players in front of him for sure.
Well, yeah, I'd certainly have Jared Harrison in ahead of JT for sure. So maybe Ori pairs up with one of them boys and leaves JT carrying the drinks. I reckon that's the way to go.
Harry Keeley and Brody Harker often found themselves in some trouble in the recent development series against New South Wales. They performed exceptionally well. And despite lacking any orange head players, I think the Barham Suns have the quality to finish top 2. And then the addition, as we said, of Jacob Nelson doesn't do their chances any harm.
They certainly stand out, Sammy, in their fluoro orange anyway.
Alrighty, moving on to the next team in Pool C. It's the VBL4 qualifiers, MCC. They are represented by Joey Clark, Steve Garcia, Max Goldsmith, Will Mays, Scotty Magine, and Scott Mortimer. The VBL4 qualifier, it's a shortened format of the actual VBL and hard to win well, but they were the class side in this year's qualifier event. There are a few things to note here, Matthew. Joey Clark is listed but unavailable for this weekend. And those who follow VBL closely might have seen that Brendan Gallagher, a late out, he's replaced by Scotty Magine. Tangles, I'm a bit worried with no Joey Clark going round, but do they have the quality to finish top 2 still?
Yeah, well, it is a big 2 outs. 2 talented players that obviously featured prominently in their qualifying event, and I actually know it firsthand. They knocked over the Ocean Grove Jets in the final. They actually put them to the sword, but certainly earned their spot in the field. The 2 outs, I had them penciled in with their original lineup as a big chance, but I think that's going to hurt. But there's enough talent there. There's a few young boys that here's their opportunity to step up.
Yeah, it's a hard one to pick now. Their spiritual leader and coach, Lloyd Yacarino, also unavailable, so we'll have to keep an eye on things coming up this weekend. The Moorama Steamers are back for another edition of the VBL. Kevin Anderson, Travis Kelly, Cam Keenan, Cass Millerick, and Matt Robertson is their 5-a-side. The barometer for this team for me is Cameron Keenan. Played third to yourself, of course, Matthew, in the recent series against New South Wales. If he's in the same form and playing with the sort of passion and energy we saw at Champion Estate Pennant, Steamers win the section for mine. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a good call. A lot of talent, a lot of good form within this team, and I think Cameron is the driving factor. We know that the others can take care of themselves, and if Cameron brings that X factor, they will be unstoppable.
Yeah, potential jet lag from some team members won't play a factor here. I think the Steamers go undefeated, finish top of Pool C. Final team in Pool C is the Warrnambool Bulls. Just like the Barham Suns, a lot of local flavour here. Nathan Lynch is in his first game for the Bulls alongside Valley teammate Matty O'Brien. We know what they'll bring. Another VBL debutant, so we mentioned a little bit earlier, is Kane Nelson. We've seen him produce the goods on BVTV on a Friday night, but can he do it on a cold winter's weekend on the Murray? You'd have to think so, Matty. How do we see their chances?
Yeah, I actually like this side on paper, Sammy. I think they're a threat. We know a fair bit about Kane Nelson. We know a lot about Lynchy and Matty, as you said. Mark Bowles and Benny Corner, good local players. They'll just slot in and play their role. I think they're a threat. I think they can string a few wins together. Pretty sure Matty played with Warrnambool last year, so he's a bit of a regular with the franchise. And then include Lynchy. We know he's electric when he wants to be, and Kane's a talent. And I look forward to seeing their progress. But I've actually got them penciled in as one of the top 2.
Yeah, so the Warrnambool's, just recapping, Mark Bowles, Ben Cornick, Nathan Lynch, Kane Nelson, Matty O'Brien, and Luke Williams is their lineup. It's the match that decides Pool C for mine. Bulls versus Suns. It's Saturday, 9 a.m. The winner goes to Moama. Plenty of excitement around Pool C. Jacob and Kane Nelson making their VBL debuts. In the home side, CluBarham, as well as the VBL4 qualifier team, MCC. They're all in action. Who finishes top two? I'll say the Steamers' second spot is up for grabs, but I'll stick with the Suns for now. Matty, who's finishing top two?
Sticking with the Steamers as well, and I'm going for the Bulls, Warrnambool, to feature in the top two.
Taking a look at Pool D now, we've got our newest franchise. It's the Bendigo Gold Raiders, and they have a formidable side. Andrew Brown, Darren Burgess, Brad Holland, Luke Hoskin, Cam Wilson is their lineup. A huge effort across socials and promotion of this franchise. Mark Smith doing a power of work behind the scenes. And as we said, he's got a class side to go ahead. Just how far can they go in this year's competition?
It's a fair lineup, isn't it? It's the who's who of Bendigo Bowls. Familiar names that we've seen around the track for a lot of years now. Brad Holland, Darren Burgess, just lots of experience. The energy provided by Luke Hoskin, Brownie, and throwing one of the better Wilsons, who I think he's the best Wilson, Cam. That they will be very, very hard to beat in their first year, and certainly a threat.
Yeah, I think they can win the section for sure and might have the potential to go a little bit further than that down the track. We'll keep an eye on them. The Sebastopol Boroughs, they're represented by Robbie Baker, Tim Beecham, Glenn Mattei, Will Matthews, Greg Podesta, and Scotty Roberts. The Boroughs, they're back for the VBL4. A few new faces. That includes Greg Podesta, who featured in multiple events at State Champs Week. He's been given the job to play singles and skip the triples. Also Will Matthews, who's skipping the pairs and fours, so a good opportunity for a couple of these guys to go ahead and compete in VBL4. How do we like their chances?
Yeah, and throw in a couple of experienced campaigners with Robbie Baker and Scott Roberts. They've been around a long, long time. But I will say keep an eye out for Will Matthews. We might have seen a little bit of him here and there, but he is a talent. He's pretty quiet, just goes about his business, but the boy can play. And, if you get the chance to sit there and have a look, just keep an eye on Will. He'll impress you, I reckon. But obviously, Greg's a handy inclusion. They'll feature. They'll be thereabouts. Robbie will take control of the team and guide them along the way. But the Boroughs they'll be floating about.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on Will. Someone we've seen in the last few VBLs, and good to see him getting a chance skipping at this level. Can see how the Boroughs go. The Victorian Storm, Sammy Atkinson, Liv Cartwright, Kylie Lavis, Lisa Phillips, and Jess Wallace. I think we say it every year, Tangles, but I'm telling you, this is their year. I'm repping the new merch. We've got some Storm beanies. The only big concern I have for the girls is that JR is still in charge of coaching duties. It's a strong lineup. Outside of the Vic Open mixed pairs, Liv Cartwright has dominated everything she's played in the last 12 months. Can the Storm actually get the job done, Matthew?
Well, the form's there, isn't it? There's been plenty of titles won by, right throughout these 5 players. And you talk about current form, Liv Cartwright. As we go to air, she's just been announced in the Australian Jackaroos to tour Scotland. So congratulations to Liv. That's awesome news. Great news for her family, and for Victoria. Sammy in her own right, we know what she's capable of bringing. Kylie's just won as many state titles as I've had roast dinners. And the other two are just, unreal players. So if they string it together, if they get their combinations right, hopefully the players have a bit of input into that and it's not just left to JR, then expect the Storm to feature.
Yeah, it's a lineup where you can pick pretty much anyone in any position and you can't go wrong. We're looking forward to seeing the Vic Storm back in action for VBL4. Final team in Pool D are the Whittlesea Eagles, this year represented by Braden Ellis, Ray Jansen, Robbie Miller, Mark Ryan, Kyle Williams, and Jordan Yates. Mark Ryan is the notable one there. Huge pickup for the Eagles. He makes his debut in the VBL. Ray Jansen, of course, is the current over 60s singles champion. Eagles yet to fire in the VBL. Could this be the year?
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to see who lines up playing singles here. Obviously, we know Jordan's had a bit of success over the years, and Mark Ryan's a very handy singles player. I don't know if you've got any inside knowledge there yet, Sammy.
Yeah, their teams have come through. So Ray Jansen is playing in the singles.
Righto, got that right, didn't I?
There you go.
No, we know Ray. He's been one of the best for a long, long time. Super competitor, and you're up against it when you're playing Ray. You're in for a fight. So Oh, actually, I like that. That'll give them an opportunity to form a formidable fours team. So on the back of Ray, yeah, good luck to him.
Alrighty, so Pool D, for mine, probably the most open of the four pools we've seen across both sectional weekends. Our newest franchise in the Bendigo Gold Raiders in action, as well as BV's very own all-female team, the Vic Storm. Top two, I've gone the Bendigo Gold Raiders, but just like Pool C, second spot up for grabs. Going to go with the Storm for this one. Matty, top two?
Are we allowed to agree, or do we have to disagree here, Sammy?
Make it interesting and disagree.
Rightio, I'm on the Storm though. They're my one, and I'm going to go Smoky on Whittlesea.
Alrighty, that's a wrap on this weekend's VBL4 action in Pool C and D. Matthew Flapper, thanks for jumping on tonight, and I'll be keeping a very close eye on how our predictions fare over the weekend.
Thanks, Sammy. Yeah, mate, another exciting weekend assured, and we'll see. We'll see if we get our tips closer to what Jimmy and JT did last week. So I know in one section JT was very, very wrong. So hopefully we're a bit closer.
Yeah, we'll make it a bit of a competition like that. We better team up. But big thank you to our presenting partner for the VBL4 in Greenline. Make sure to keep an eye on BV socials for our streaming schedules later in the week. Better yet, get yourself up to Barham if you haven't been there before. Friday the 22nd, Saturday the 23rd this weekend. The new Traveller Bar's up and running. It's going to be another massive sectional weekend of VBL4.